The atmosphere inside the America's Got Talent auditorium felt like electricity wrapped in velvet. Soft, warm, but charged with a current that traveled through every seat, every light, every person waiting for the next story to unfold. Moments earlier, the noise had been deafening: laughter, chatter, the rustling of snack wrappers, the occasional shout from an overexcited fan. But now, as the stage manager whispered, "You're next, Aiden. Go ahead," the world seemed to slow for the young Filipino teen standing just behind the curtain. Aiden Reyes took a deep breath, though it barely helped. His palms were damp. His heartbeat slammed inside his chest like a drum trying to escape. He rubbed his thumb nervously against the smooth metal of the microphone, a habit he developed during countless nights practicing alone in his small bedroom. This was it, the moment he'd imagined ever since he was 7 years old, standing at the doorway of his home, pretending a mop handle was a mic, while his mother clapped along, laughing and calling him her little Elvis. But she wasn't here tonight. He blinked quickly, forcing himself not to think too hard about that. Aiden pushed open the curtain. The lights hit him instantly, a blinding warm glow that made him squint for half a second. The stage looked impossibly huge, stretching in all directions like a universe built for stars he had only ever watched on TV. He took his first step onto the polished floor, and the crowd's soft murmurs began to hush. A few people whispered, noticing how young he seemed, how fragile, how nervous. His outfit was simple: a slightly oversized white shirt tucked into faded black jeans, the kind that had been washed too many times. His curly dark hair fell messily over his forehead. Nothing about him looked like the next viral AGT sensation, and that was exactly why the judges watched him with curiosity. Simon Cowell leaned forward almost immediately, studying the boy's trembling hands. Sofia Vergara tilted her head with that familiar warm smile, sensing something emotional. Heidi Klum gave a small, encouraging nod, while Howie Mandel pressed his fingertips together, thoughtfully. Aiden stopped at the center of the stage. The big red X's stood before him like 4 giant, silent warnings. He took another shaky breath. "Hello," Sofia greeted with a bright smile. "What is your name?" His voice cracked before he even said a word. Embarrassed, he cleared his throat softly. "My name is, Aiden. Aiden Reyes." "How old are you, Aiden?" Heidi asked gently. 16, he replied, trying to steady his voice. "I'm from the Philippines, but I live in California now." Simon watched him closely. "And what brings you to AGT today?" Aiden hesitated. This was the moment, the part of the story he could barely talk about without choking up. The auditorium fell silent, sensing something deeper in his silence. He looked down at his shoes. They were scuffed, worn out at the edges. His mother had saved for weeks to buy him a similar pair when he was younger. The memory washed over him, warm but painful. "I'm here because—" he started, then stopped. His throat tightened. "Because my mom always believed I could do this. She always told me to sing my heart out." A pause. "And I want to make her proud." Sofia's smile softened. "Is she here with you tonight?" Aiden's lips trembled. He swallowed hard. "No. She passed away last year." The words echoed through the auditorium like a soft thunder that didn't need to be loud to be felt. A wave of emotion rippled through the audience. Tightened throats, heavy hearts. A few people covered their mouths in sympathy. He continued, voice barely above a whisper. "She used to love Elvis Presley. She played his songs every morning. And she always said I sounded a little like him when I sang." He gave a shaky smile. "Even when I didn't." Simon leaned forward even more. His voice softened, something rare. "And what are you singing for us today, Aiden?" "A song for her." He nodded slowly. "A song I know she would have loved to hear." The lights dimmed slightly, focusing tighter around him. Just him, the mic, and the silent hum of thousands of beating hearts, waiting to hear his story play out in notes instead of words. Aiden shifted his weight, placing his feet firmly on the ground the way his mother had taught him. "A singer needs strong legs," she used to say, tapping his knee playfully. "Even if your heart is shaking." He missed her voice. He missed the smell of her cooking drifting through their tiny home. He missed the way she would tilt her head while listening to him sing, like she was trying to memorize every note. Tonight, he wanted the world to hear what she heard. The stage manager signaled the sound crew, but Aiden quickly raised his hand. I'd like to sing without backing music," he said softly. The judges exchanged surprised glances. Singing a cappella on AGT was a risk, a huge one. No music meant no safety net. Every breath, every crack, every mistake would be exposed, but Aiden seemed determined. Simon nodded slowly. "Whenever you're ready." Aiden closed his eyes. And in that moment, the world outside the spotlight disappeared. The audience faded into a blurry mass of shadows. The judges became distant shapes. The stage beneath him felt steadier. All he saw in his mind was his mother, smiling, tapping her foot, cheering him on. He whispered under his breath, "For you, Ma." He took one last deep breath, filling his lungs with courage he didn't know he still had. Then he opened his mouth to sing. The opening note hovered in the air like a fragile piece of glass, ready to shatter or shine. It carried the weight of grief, the purity of love, and the echo of a boy trying to keep a piece of his mother, alive through music. The audience leaned forward, breathless. Something incredible was about to happen. The first note left Aiden's lips like a slow, trembling whisper. Soft, deep, and hauntingly warm. It drifted into the air, gentle enough to feel fragile, yet powerful enough to send a pulse through the entire auditorium. The sound technician froze mid-movement. The front row leaned forward in disbelief. Even the air felt different, thicker, as if every molecule inside the arena paused to listen. It was unmistakable, that tone, that warmth, that depth. Aiden didn't just sound like Elvis Presley. He felt like Elvis had stepped onto the AGT stage through him. The judges reacted instantly. Simon's eyebrows shot up as he shifted in his seat, suddenly alert. Heidi pressed a hand to her chest. Sophia's lips parted in surprise. Howie mouthed a silent wow, his eyes widening. But Aiden didn't notice any of that. He was lost in the song, a sacred space, a memory, a promise to his mother. His voice grew steadier with each word, dipping into that rich, velvety register that Elvis fans knew by heart. It was uncanny, surreal, almost like time folding back on itself. He wasn't imitating Elvis. He was channeling the emotion behind the man. The audience was stunned. Some gasped audibly. A few even whispered to each other, "Is this for real? Oh my God, he sounds exactly like—" "No way. He's 16? Aiden's voice carried, emotion so raw that even his vibrato trembled with sincerity. The microphone remained steady in his hand now, as if the music itself gave him strength. His shoulders relaxed, his breathing synced with the melody, and his eyes stayed closed, seeing no one, only the memory of the woman who believed in him more than anyone ever had. More than his voice, it was the vulnerability, the pain, and the love behind each note that left the crowd breathless. As he moved into the second verse, the tone dropped deeper, filled with longing. His mother always said he had a gift, not just a voice but a heart that could make people feel what he felt. Tonight, that gift was in full bloom. The camera zoomed in on the judges. Sophia's eyes gleamed with tears. Heidi whispered something under her breath, something like, "Unbelievable." Howie shook his head slowly, overwhelmed. And Simon, he didn't move, didn't blink. His normally sharp, guarded expression softened into something rare, a look of pure awe. Then came the part of the song that made everything stop. Aiden opened his eyes for the first time, lifting his head toward the ceiling. The lights overhead softened to a golden glow, as though illuminating the moment with warmth from somewhere beyond. His voice rose with an aching swell, fuller and richer than anyone expected from someone so young. A woman in the audience covered her mouth, tears pouring freely. Another fan grabbed the hand of the stranger next to her. A group of teens recording the performance stopped filming because they forgot to breathe. Aiden's voice cracked, just once, perfectly, on a note that carried heartbreak so real it felt like the entire Building X hailed with him. It wasn't a mistake. It was truth. That crack revealed the real him, a grieving son singing for the mother who couldn't be there to hear him. The rawness made the performance soar. The arena fell into complete stillness. Every seat, every balcony, every corner of the vast space held its breath, suspended in the moment between sadness and beauty. Simon whispered something the microphone barely caught. "Wow." The performance continued, growing even stronger. Aiden stepped slightly forward, no longer the trembling teenager who walked out moments earlier, but an artist claiming his place. His voice commanded the room with surprising confidence, echoing with warmth and depth that reached the very last row of the audience. The lights behind him brightened ever so slightly, forming a halo-like silhouette around his figure. It made him look taller, braver, like a star emerging in real time. By the bridge of the song, the audience had transformed from curious spectators into emotional witnesses. Some people wiped their tears openly, uncaring of who saw them. Couples held hands, parents hugged their kids a little tighter, and dozens of phones filmed shakily, their users too moved to hold them steady. Aiden let the final chorus unfold gently, pouring every ounce of his heart into each word. His voice no longer resembled a teenager's. It carried wisdom, sorrow, and an unmistakable soul. He whispered the last line, soft enough to feel like a prayer. "For you, Ma." The moment the final note left his lips, something astonishing happened. The entire arena stayed silent. Not a clap, not a murmur, not a single sound. Total stunned silence. That silence, rare on AGT, was the highest compliment any performer could receive. It meant the audience wasn't ready to let the moment go. They wanted to sit in it, feel it, breathe it a little longer. Aiden lowered the microphone slowly, his hand trembling once more now that the song was over. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths as he blinked back tears. He didn't know if he had done well. He didn't know what the judges were thinking. All he knew was that he had left everything on that stage. He whispered again, barely audible, "I hope you heard that, Ma." Suddenly, a single audience member stood, then another, then an entire section, then the whole auditorium. A wave of rising bodies swept across the arena like a tide of emotion. Applause erupted, thunderous, explosive, overwhelming. Aiden flinched at first, startled by the sudden change, but then his lips slowly curled into a shaky, grateful smile. The judges stood too, every single one. Heidi clapped with both hands, tears streaking her cheeks. Sophia pressed her palms together near her heart. Howie shouted something no one could hear over the cheers. And Simon didn't smile. He beamed, a rare, genuine smile that only appeared when he witnessed something unforgettable. He leaned forward, eyes shining ever so slightly, and mouthed one word to Aiden: "Bravo." Aiden's breath hitched. His knees nearly buckled from the wave of relief and emotion washing over him. For the first time that night, he felt it. Not nerves, not fear, but the warm, powerful certainty. His mother would have been proud. For a few long, suspended seconds, Aiden Reyes stood frozen under the bright AGT spotlight, still breathing heavily as the last echo of his final note dissolved into the air. The applause thundered around him, a wave that crashed again and again, louder with each passing moment. The entire arena was on its feet, thousands of people rising as one. But Aiden didn't see any of it. Not at first. He stood there blinking rapidly, chest rising and falling, trying to process what had just happened. He had been so lost in the memory of his mother, so wrapped in the raw ache of the song, that the eruption of cheers felt like waking up from a dream too beautiful and too painful all at once. When he finally looked up, he saw something he would never forget. Row after row of people standing, clapping, some crying, others shouting his name. A few held their phones up high to capture the moment, but many simply stood with their hands pressed against their hearts, moved beyond words. The audience wasn't cheering for a performance, they were cheering for a story, for a boy who had taken his pain and turned it into something beautiful. Aiden's lips trembled. His hand tightened around the microphone. He didn't trust himself to speak, so he didn't. He just stood there, eyes glistening, overwhelmed. His gaze drifted to the judges, 4 faces that had become symbols of success, fear, and dreams for so many performers. Sofia Vergara was the easiest to read. Her eyes shimmered with tears she didn't mind anyone seeing. She pressed one hand to her heart and shook her head slowly, as if silently saying, "How did you do that?" Heidi Klum wiped a tear from the corner of her eye, smiling through the emotion. She had seen hundreds of singers and thousands of performances, but nothing quite like this young boy pouring his soul onto the stage. Howie Mandel clapped vigorously, shouting something encouraging, though his voice was lost in the roar of the crowd. His eyes sparkled with admiration, a rare moment of complete sincerity. And then there was Simon Cowell, the man who rarely showed emotion, the man known for brutal honesty, the man who had seen everything. He didn't hide tonight. Simon's eyes were red, his jaw clenched as he looked down for a moment, composing himself. When he finally lifted his gaze to Aiden, something indescribably soft flickered there. Respect, admiration, and perhaps even a little bit of heartbreak. The applause continued, rising again before slowly settling into an anticipatory hush. The audience wanted to hear what the judges would say. Aiden swallowed hard, still shaking slightly, and lowered the microphone to his chest as the moment began. Sophia leaned in first. "Aiden," she started, her voice thick with emotion. That was so beautiful. You sang with so much heart, so much pain, so much love." She placed her hand on her chest again. "I think your mom was here with you tonight, I really do, and she must be incredibly proud." Aiden inhaled sharply. His vision blurred for a moment. He nodded, lips pressed together, trying not to cry. Heidi jumped in next. "Aiden, you have a gift, not just your voice, which is unbelievable, by the way, but the way you make us feel something. I felt every word you sang. You touched this entire room. This is what AGT is about. Moments like this." The crowd cheered again, and Aiden let out a shy smile, wiping his cheek with the back of his hand. Howie leaned forward, his expression full of intensity. "I'll tell you this," he said firmly. "There are singers, and then there are storytellers. You, young man, are both. You have something special, something big. You didn't just perform. You connected with every single person in this auditorium." Aiden whispered, "Thank you," into the microphone, though his voice cracked from emotion. Then Simon Cowell leaned toward his mic. The audience quieted instantly, sensing the significance of what he was about to say. "Aiden," he started, his voice unusually soft. "I don't know if you realize what you just did." He paused, searching for the right words. "I've been doing this a long time. I've heard thousands of auditions, but every once in a while, maybe once in a season, someone comes along and gives us a moment we will never forget." Aiden stared at him wide-eyed. Simon continued, "You didn't just sound incredible. You didn't just sing well. You honored your mother in a way that touched every single person here tonight. And when you hit that note," he exhaled deeply, shaking his head, "I felt that. We all felt that. You are, without question, one of the most special performers we've seen this year." The audience roared. Aiden's jaw trembled. He lowered his head, overwhelmed beyond words. Simon wasn't done. "I want you to know something." He leaned closer, eyes steady. "Your mom would be bursting with pride right now. And honestly," he paused, voice cracking just slightly, "so am I." Aiden gasped softly, covering his mouth. Tears streamed freely down his face now. Suddenly, the entire audience began chanting, "Golden buzzer! Golden buzzer! Golden buzzer!" Aiden shook his head in disbelief, overwhelmed by the sound of thousands of people shouting the words that every AGT contestant dreams of hearing. Sophia stood and clapped above her head. Heidi joined in. Howie shouted along with the crowd. Simon looked down at the golden buzzer button in front of him. Then he looked back at Aiden. The boy froze. He didn't dare hope. He didn't dare breathe. Simon reached forward, placed a single finger on the button, and then slammed IT down. The room erupted. Golden confetti exploded from the ceiling like a burst of sunlight. The crowd screamed. Sophia jumped. Heidi covered her face. Howie threw his arms into the air. Aiden collapsed to his knees instantly, sobbing openly. Tears of joy, relief, pain, love, all mixing together. The golden flakes rained down over him like a blessing sent from somewhere far above. An AGT crew member gently guided him toward the judges' table, where Simon met him halfway. Simon placed a hand on Aiden's shoulder, firm, supportive, sincere. "You deserved that," Simon said quietly. "You earned that." Aiden nodded, tears streaming, whispering, "Thank you. Thank you so much. Ma, this is for you." As the golden confetti swirled around him like glittering angels and the music swelled, Aiden lifted his face to the lights, smiling through the tears. For the first time since losing his mother, the weight in his chest felt lighter. Tonight, he wasn't just a boy grieving. He was a star rising. And somewhere, somehow, he knew she was watching.